Okay, welcome. Thank you for joining us for Interview 101. This is going to be a workshop about basic interviewing skills. The next SOS workshop will be about more in-depth practice for interviewing. And my name is Angela Coloretti-McGough. I'm a counselor and coordinator here for the Employment Prep Center. All right. Let me try this. Okay, so our agenda for the day is we're going to talk about what to do before your interview and on the day of your interview, and then we have an evaluation for the workshop. So you submitted your job application, okay? And there's some important steps to go through. So how will you be notified of your interview? And the other things that you need to do in order to set up your interview professionally. So the first thing is that, oh, I'm going down. I need to go back. All right. So the first thing is that you're going to be notified of your interview, usually on email, and sometimes you'll be called on the phone. So if you have a phone with voicemail, make sure that your voicemail is set up appropriately. So it should be professional. You want to make sure that you either state your name and please leave a message, or it's okay to have an automatic message that just gives your phone number. But you do want to avoid anything that's distracting or possibly music or any other kinds of extraneous things. You just want to make sure they know that they're leaving a message for you. And then when you're in a career search, you want to make sure that you're answering your calls with a professional tone. So make sure that if you don't recognize the number or if it's blocked, you should still answer it and make sure you're ready to schedule your interview. If you provided an email, you should check that regularly and respond as soon as you can. Of course, you want to check your writing, make sure it's grammatically correct, and that you're answering every question that they ask. So sometimes when you get an email, they'll ask you further questions and then give you some directions. So make sure you repeat what it is that you're instructed to do to make sure that they know you understand. So congratulations, out of everyone who's applied, you were offered the interview. And to interview, you want to make sure that you're being as, you want to have as great follow through as possible. So return a call, even if it's after business hours, you can leave a message, let them know when you're going to call back. And then you want to make sure you know who you're talking to. So write the name down of the person who set up the interview. And if you're on the phone, you can ask them to clarify or how to spell their name correctly. This is important because we want to give a thank you at the end. And so it's important to know who you're talking to. You can ask what kind of an interview. So there might be a group where there's a number of people that are applying for the same job, or it could be a panel where it's you and then there's 2 or 3 people, sometimes more, interviewing you, or individual where it's just a one-on-one. So you can ask that. What kind of interview is this? Is it a panel interview? Will I be in a group? That kind of a question. And then make sure you understand if you're going in person, where you're parking, the building name, the room numbers. If you need a map, request a map, and then make sure to thank them at the end of the call. Okay, so this is pretty basic, but it's very important. You want to make sure that you are ready to go. So know where you're going. And sometimes it's helpful for you to do a practice run. So you can either take the bus or get a ride or drive to the location you're going ahead of time to make sure you know where you're going. Sometimes maps are wrong when you're following, GPS. So you want to make sure you know exactly what you're doing. And then try to arrive early so you don't appear rushed, but not too early. So 10 to 15 minutes is a good amount of time, but if you come too early, that's a little awkward. So you want to give them enough time so they know you're here and you're ready to go, but you don't want to arrive with too much time where it's a little bit strange for you to be sitting there. Of course, you want to prepare for any kind of rain or any kind of weather. So bring an umbrella or whatever you need to do if you're going to be parking and walking or taking the bus. And then make sure you have enough money on you to pay for your parking. Finally, you want to make sure you have your ID, your social security card, your passport, and any other hiring documents, just in case they offer you the job and you want to take it right then and there. Again, this is a really basic workshop, so I'm going to be covering some things that we already know just to make sure that I've touched upon it. So the first thing is personal hygiene. You want to make sure that you are look good, feel good, and smell good. Okay, so you want to make sure your hair is groomed, your facial hair is groomed, that you appear to be ready and you're professional, ready for your interview, and have a positive attitude. So we'll talk a little bit about your behavior and communication, but we'll cover that more in depth during the next workshop. So for personal hygiene, make sure you're planning ahead. Sometimes we want to get our hair cut, but we do it the same day or the day before. That might not be enough time for you to get used to it. So make sure you know how you're going to do your hair on that day, that your facial hair is groomed, that you feel very comfortable in your own skin. The other thing is sometimes people want to wear body spray or other kinds of fragrance. And I do not recommend that because sometimes it can be distracting or someone might be allergic like me. I'm allergic to fragrance. So you want to make sure that you are not going to be wearing anything, even perfume or fragrances that are distracting. And then it doesn't really need to be said, but I will say it again that all your clothing and your shoes and your accessories should be clean and neat and simple. If you can iron or press your clothes, if you need to, make sure you're not wrinkled, you don't have holes, like that kind of basic thing. But something folks don't think about is their accessories. So, and their shoes. One thing I never really think about is my shoes. So make sure your shoes are clean. We want to pay attention to every single detail because you're making a very good first impression. So what do you wear? There's a number of different kinds of jobs where your clothing is going to be casual, business casual, or business professional. And so what we want to do is look at what they're wearing every day and then try to dress a little bit like one step up. So I'm going to describe that a little bit. Your outfit of the day. So here's an example of casual attire in Hawaii. So the gentleman on the left, he is wearing a collared shirt. In this case, it's an aloha shirt. It's untucked, which is a little less casual, but he's wearing a baseball hat and shorts. So that would be an example of a more casual look. For the gentleman on the right, he's also wearing athletic shoes and a t-shirt and a visible chain. So again, those are things that show a more casual or leisurely style of clothes. You do not want to wear athletic shoes. And then in the middle, we have a variety of dress. For the most part, folks are dressed in business casual, like the woman holding the sign, I would say that would be business casual. However, if you look at some of the other folks, they're wearing slippers or their shoulders are showing. We have a woman in a t-shirt and jeans. So that's definitely an example of more casual attire. Business casual attire for men. So in Hawaii, typically, this is our standard, right? A collared short sleeve aloha shirt, plain, not too much distracting features on the shirt, a belt tucked in, a belt and slacks, and then your shoes and your belt match. This is business casual, although he's wearing a tie and long sleeve button down shirt. He's wearing a sweater over it and more casual slacks. And again, his shoes have a white sole. Now, you'll see when I talk about shoes that I say don't have a white sole because it looks more like an athletic shoe. But sometimes, depending on our feet, we have to wear certain kinds of shoes, so that's okay. And then finally, here's someone wearing a dressy shirt. It's a cultural shirt. It could be a guayabera or another kind of shirt that is considered business casual. For women, again, these folks are wearing business casual. I would say for the woman that's seated, her shoulders are bare. So if she had a sweater or a jacket over that, then that would be more of a business professional outfit. Like the other woman that is seated. But the two women, one wearing a black dress, that's a little more business casual, and the one wearing a nice blouse and pants, that's business casual as well. Collared shirts are always good with buttons, plain, not too distracting. Again, you can see earrings are pretty minimal. And then here's another example of what could be considered business casual. It's got a collar and a belt and a skirt, and then closed-toed shoes. Finally, for professional business attire for men, that's going to be a 2 or 3-piece suit. It's going to be a jacket and matching slacks. You're going to be wearing a belt. Your shoes and your belt will match, and a tie and a long sleeve button down shirt. So in Hawaii, it's really hot. We don't tend to wear vests, but you could also wear a vest. You can wear a pocket handkerchief. Again, it depends on the kind of interview you're going into. And typically, the only professions in Hawaii where you would dress up in this way are if you're going for like an executive position, or you're going into finance or law. Otherwise, we're typically business casual. Same for women. It's going to be a jacket and slacks, or jacket and a dress, or a jacket and skirts with either a soft collar or a regular collar. And you want to wear closed-toed shoes. Typically, women are wearing heels, but we're going to talk about shoes in a second. So for men, again, you want to wear either black shoes and a black belt with dress socks, or brown shoes and a brown belt with dress socks. Dress socks, not athletic socks. You don't want to wear boots or any kind of athletic shoes. Avoid white laces, and no athletic socks, as I mentioned. For women, we have a lot more options for the kinds of shoes that we wear. So typically, the first 2 shoes you see on the bottom is what I would expect: a closed-toe, closed heel, either a wedge heel or an actual heel. But you can wear maybe like a dressier loafer. What you want to avoid is stilettos, anything with patterns on it, or hardware like studs or chains. The point is, whatever you're wearing, you want it not to be distracting. So it should be simple. And then for me, the most important thing is that you're comfortable. So make sure that you're comfortable when you're walking. Something we don't think about is how we're going to be carrying our documents and other items. So you want to make sure you have a professional tote or a messenger bag, something that looks clean and simple. And then make sure you have a folder, a portfolio, or a padfolio, which is this kind of like a leather bound or patent leather bound kind of a portfolio that has something to write on, and then a pocket for your resume, cover letter, and references. And then you want to make sure you have a pen and something to write on. If you're going into a more of a technical position, you can bring an iPad, or even you can use like some sort of a smaller to write on. So now here's the pop quiz time. So if you're interviewing with these ladies, what kind of clothes could you wear? What style would it be? Would it be casual, business casual, or professional business? So they are dressed more casually, yes. So you would wear something a step up. So you would dress in a business casual outfit, right? So whereas they're wearing jeans, you could wear something similar, but with a dressier slack. She's wearing a dress, so you could wear a dress. You can wear a blouse like this, but then maybe have a more professional looking pant. So you want to go business casual. Yeah. How about these folks? What would you wear? Yeah, so you're business professional. They're all wearing suits. You're going to be wearing the same. All right. So we're actually getting close to the end, and I wanted to address your resume. So we know that you need to bring your resume because it's a good thing for you to look at, but it's also a legal document. So it's something you've turned in to them, and they can ask you questions about. So they may use it to ask questions about what kind of skills you have. They can look at your work history and ask questions about your work history. They can ask about your schooling. And so it's important for you to review what you have on your resume and be prepared to answer questions about it, but also to bring at least one clean copy, if not more. If you know that you're going to be interviewed by more than one person, you want to have a copy of your resume for each. Sometimes when you turn in your resume, it takes a little bit of time for them to set up the interview. So you might have an updated version. You can say, this is an updated copy of my resume. And that's always nice. And then finally, you want to bring a positive attitude, right? So we want to make sure that we're conveying the most positive, enthusiastic, energetic attitude for the employers to see that you want to work there. So when you're introduced to someone, what is one of the first things that you do? When you're introduced to somebody, what is one of the first things you do? You give your name and then what? In the United States. We shake hands. Oh. So the way that you shake hands, and it's hard for, folks aren't seeing this, but you want to put the web between your thumb and your pointer finger. You want to make sure that that is what makes contact with the other person's web of between their thumb and their pointer finger. So the Queen of England, she'll give her hand out like this, but you're not the Queen. So you want to put your hand out straight, and then you shake. You don't want to shake more than 2 or 3 times. So you're not going to shake, that's awkward, that you don't want to hang on to their hand when you're shaking hands. And then also you want to make eye contact, and then, you can introduce yourself again. So for the person that's in the workshop, when we met, I introduced myself and I put my hand out, and then we shook, right? And so that's about where we would be when you shake hands. You want to give, 1 or 2 shakes, but then don't hang on for too long. That's a little bit weird. Okay. So we practiced already when we introduced each other right before the workshop. So do you have any other ideas about how you can show that you're interested when you're sitting there? So other nonverbal behavior, like what are some things you can do to show that you're interested? You're like, I don't know, that's why I'm here. So one of the first things that you can do in the last workshop, our workforce development coordinator reminded me that it's good to smile. So when you smile, it gives people a feeling of being relaxed near you, and it's more pleasant and more easy to talk to you. You want to make eye contact, right? And then also you want to maintain your tone. So you don't want to speak too softly because then they won't be able to hear you. And then you don't want to speak too loud because that's also distracting. So you want to maintain an even tone. Sitting up straight also helps, right? And then sometimes leaning forward shows that you're listening attentively. So you are showing just by the way you're seated that you're interested in the job. And that's our basic interview skills workshop. So at this point, you're ready, right? You're ready to go. So now what's next is you're already set, you're set up for your interview, you've got the map, you know where you're going, you have your documents, your outfit looks great, and you're ready with your positive attitude. So now we have to talk about what kinds of questions they're going to be asking and how you can answer them effectively. So that's coming up next in interview 102. And then for those of you in person, there's an evaluation in the front. Here's my contact information. So if you're interested in making an appointment with me, I use Star Balance, or you can email me. And my office is in the Iliahi building in room 228. So thank you for attending.